Hi everyone, good afternoon and happy Sunday. Welcome to the fourth installment of Sip with Somm4All. I apologize for the lighting. It's a little bit of an overcast day here. And so here in the home studio in downtown metropolis Hammond, it's a little tough to get things just the way I'd like. So back for our fourth installment, a little shaggier, a little more furry, such is the plight of all of us with COVID-19. Hope everybody that's tuning in is staying safe, is well, is washing their hands, and hopefully we'll be back to what we call normal sooner rather than later. So as I mentioned, this is Sip with Somm4All. This is the fourth episode in a series that I created about 3 weeks ago to try and profile and virtually taste some local products and producers of adult beverages. It's a bit of a tired phrase to say that we're all in this together. The reality, though, is we are all in this together. This is affecting everybody globally, and certainly those of us here in Eastern Ontario that work in the hospitality and service industry. My name is Paul, for those of you joining in for the first time. I'm an accredited sommelier, certified WSET level 3 in wine and level 1 in sake. And I have a business. It's a local business, small business, Somm4All, and it offers sommelier services. And what that really means is I do private and guided tastings, I do corporate events, people that are getting married and want to have a bit of a different touch for the groomsmen. We do whiskey tastings, I do stuff for the Canadian military. I do menu consultations, I do product reviews. All of that though, and I do brand ambassadorship. So I'm also the local rep for a winery in Prince Edward County, Carlo Estates. If anyone's looking for premium, vegan, artisanal local wine, drop me a line here, shoot me an email, paul@somm4all.com. But aside from that, what I'm doing with Somm4All is based on being able to get out in the public's eye, essentially. So much like my brethren in the hospitality and service industry, I'm here. Luckily, we have a lovely acreage to spend my time on. But I can't go out and I can't talk to people. So knowing that I've got a lot of colleagues in the same boat, I thought, how can I do something that's going to help people out? How can I help out local businesses? I'm not partners with anybody else. I'm not their rep. This is not anything paid. This is all done free. But this, these times that we're in, whether you're in the United States or whether you're in Canada or whether you're tuning in from Ireland or anywhere else in the world. And hello, Diane. Welcome. Thank you. Hello, Karen Hogan. Thank you. So for those of you that are just tuning in, just kind of giving a little background on Somm4All and why I'm doing this series, Sip with Somm4All. So like I said, we're all in the same boat. And I thought in my little corner of the world here in Eastern Ontario, how could I help out some people? So I reached out to a couple of folks and some people were interested. Carlo Estates, of course, being the rep for them. It was easy, series 1 and 2, which are available on my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook page. If you missed that, I do the full product catalog of Carlo Estates. If you're interested in wine or interested in learning about premium wine, that's a great place to go. We did Domaine Perrault, which is a local winery just about 10 minutes from where I am here. They're small batch, kind of small winery, but they're very honest in what they're doing. So just showcasing their products and doing virtual tastings to try and reinforce the importance of buy local, drink local. So with all that out of the way, Sip with Somm4All. Now that we've told you who I am and what I'm doing, welcome to today's event. Today we're gonna shift gears and we're gonna talk about beer. We've talked wine the first 3. Now we're gonna talk about beer. The happy accident that can be traced back about 10,000 years to an area of the world that we know now as the Middle East. It quickly became entrenched in human life, so much so that early Egyptians actually used it as currency. So, beer and humans kind of go hand in hand. So what is beer? I mean, aside from delicious, we all know that. But what is beer? Well, beer is a fermented alcoholic beverage that's actually 90% water. 90 to just over 90% of it is water. Then there's grains, there's yeast, and usually hops. You may hear that word, and hops is a floral bud of sorts. So grains like barley and wheat and rye, oats sometimes, they're all used, and they're important because it's the starches that are inside of all of those grains that, when they're steeped in hot water, like making a tea, as an example, when you pour hot water into these grains, the starches start to break down and come out. And when you put yeast in there, the yeast actually eats, kind of like a little Pac-Man. The yeast eats the starches and produces alcohol. Then we throw hops in there, and hops have very floral aromatics. They also impart bitterness, and hops are also very important because they work as a preservation tool. There's some bacteria that can come out as a byproduct of that whole fermentation process. And when you throw hops in there, and the more hops you throw in within reason, the more preservation you get out of it. So hops are very, very important. So now let's talk about craft beer. So we talked beer, we know what it is, craft beer. Now the craft brewing world, it encompasses the pursuit of independent brewers. That's kind of what it means, craft beer versus just beer. It's independent breweries that are, they're making beer largely by using old traditional means with older traditional ingredients, with the goal that's making a beer that's more flavorful, that's more robust, and that it certainly appeals to the palate more of the beer drinking generation. So they want to differentiate themselves from the big guys that make beer that either have slogans like King of Beers on there, or have mountains that are blue, or have words like light that's spelled L-I-T-E. Craft brewers are trying to produce a more honest, more traditional expression of beer. Now, I'm not here to pick on the King of Beers or the Rocky Mountains. If that's your bag and that's what you drink, good on you. There's no such thing as bad wine. There's no such thing as bad beer, bad whiskey, whatever, if you like it. That's the key thing there, if you like it. However, those industrial type of products, especially in the beer world, they're brewed to appeal to the mass audience, and there's not really a lot of flavor in there. Their audience generally doesn't want flavor, or doesn't know that they want flavor. So they use things like rice and some cereal in there, but they're pretty middle of the road. That's why you serve them screaming cold. Craft beers have taste. They have flavor, and that's what the craft brewers are going after. It's a growing market sense as well. In Ontario, it's 10% and growing of the Ontario beer market, period, is craft brewing. And when I say growing, it's growing. There's over 250 breweries in Ontario. And again, that number is changing almost daily. And here in the Ottawa or Greater Ottawa area, I did a count a little while ago and I was at 35. I'm sure we're closer to 40 now, and there is more and more opening every couple of weeks. Maybe the last couple of weeks, not so much, but it is certainly a growing segment and there's a demand for it. So now, we're here to talk about Etienne Brule. And Etienne Brule is a brewery located in the thriving metropolis of Embrun. First opened its doors in 2016. It's located in an old firehouse in Embrun. And Embrun's about 20 minutes east of downtown Ottawa, just to give you some geographical perspective. Now, the name of the owner is not Etienne Brule. No one in the family is Etienne Brule. The name actually comes from a 17th century French explorer who was called Etienne Brule. He was the first European to explore beyond the St. Lawrence River and into present-day Ontario. And he lived amongst the First Nations people as an interpreter. And then while he explored, and then he also brought back some resources to France. But he was very, very in tune and felt very, very much at home with the First Nations people here. So the guy did a lot of great things for France and explored this new world. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of a tough ending. He was actually executed by France after he renounced his French citizenship in saying that he wanted to live permanently amongst the Hurons, the First Nations that were here. So, the French weren't so happy with him towards the end, but his explorations and his work and his interpretation skills led us to the new world we have today and led us to the brewery, Etienne Brule. His name was used because the brewery, the people behind the brewery, they liked the concept of Etienne Brule. Very important to this region, obviously, as I said, he first to explore beyond the St. Lawrence River. But what that represented, the exploration and discovering aspects, that's what these folks at Etienne Brule are trying to do. They're trying to explore new beer flavors. and they're trying to explore and discover new palate-pleasing opportunities. So that's the name, Etienne Brule. Also, though, in keeping with the fact that Etienne Brule himself was from the 17th century, the brewery uses only natural organic materials. I mean, they're only the second certified organic brewery in Ontario. They're EcoCert certified, so all their products, all their ingredients, all their practices are organic, and that's important because it plays into what they're trying to do. They're trying to take a page out of the 17th century when there was no pesticides available and no herbicides and none of those other types of things that people throw into beers or crop management. They want to try and make a modern day honest expression of the 17th century. Yeah, and they're doing pretty good things. I enjoy the beer. We're going to go through them just here in a moment. These guys are relatively new, as I said, 2016, they opened their doors. In 2017, so a year after coming into the scene, they had a top 10 finish in the Ontario Craft Brewer Awards gala that was held. So, they're cracking top 10, and as I said, there's over 250. So these guys are certainly capturing the eyes of the industry, and I'm very happy to showcase some of their products with you today. They also have these cute, and I'm just going to show you this now as we go through it, they have these cute little stubby bottles for most of their products. Some are in cans as well, but very cute. So, getting ready to dive into the beer. Before we taste, a couple of things that we need to go over. When we're talking beer, it's a little different than when we talk wine or some of the other spirits. Aromas are a key factor in beer. The flavors are going to follow the aromas for the most part. It's fairly rare in beer for you to taste something very different from what you're smelling. So on the nose, we're going to be looking, is it malty? So does it have any biscuit or cracker, nutty or roasted notes? We're going to be looking, is it hoppy? So is it spicy? Is it fruity? Is it floral, herbal? Is it yeasty? When we say yeasty, we mean doughy or baked kind of essences. And then we're going to be looking at the intensity. Is it very soft and subtle? Is there some fragrance there? Does this thing punch you in the nose? And again, the flavors, we're going to see if they follow that. Hopefully they will. They probably should. And then the other thing is mouthfeel with beer. So we did talk a little bit about mouthfeel with wine, but it is important with beer. The producers are looking to see, for a creamy finish or smooth finish, crisp, light, full, rich. And then is it balanced? Is there one thing that's dominating, or does everything kind of play together? So, beer is not just playing soccer and then quaffing a cold one right after. That certainly has its place, but beer can be a lot more complex than that. So let's dive in. First one up, we're going to do 4 here today. First one up is Somm4All. So we'll hold that up. Hopefully everybody sees that, and this is showing the right way. So Somm4All, it's an IPA, 6.8% alcohol. And then IPA. Well, IPA is India Pale Ale. And we hear that word a lot. A lot of producers are producing IPAs. That's a style that was created in the 1800s for a beer that was meant to be shipped to India. The English specifically were shipping beer to India, and they found that the beer wasn't surviving the voyage very well. It was spoiling, in the warm waters and the warm environments. So they had the bright idea to add more hops to it. Again, I said earlier, hops act as a preservation characteristic. And so by adding more hops and by boosting the alcohol of the beer, they found a great balance, or what they thought was a great balance, which allowed the beer to still taste good and to remain fresh during the voyage for the thirsty soldiers and people that were in India. This one, Somm4All, is so named because it uses a very specific type of hop called Citra. And as we taste through it, I'm not going to name them all because we could be here for hours, but the different beers here and different beers in general use different hop varieties. And that's very important because in a lot of cases, those different hop varieties are what lend the different unique floral or taste or aroma profiles. So just because you don't like one IPA doesn't mean that you don't like IPAs at all. It just, maybe there's a certain fruit or floral note that you're not enjoying with that one. But depending on which hop they're using and so forth. So the Somm4All. So a little darker. I don't know how well this is going to come through. So a little darker than some of the ones that you may see. It's unfiltered. Again, natural organic beer processes. And when we give it a smell, it's very nice. So there's this piney kind of resiny note that most IPAs have. The hops that you use, regardless of which exact ones, generally have that piney, resiny note. But this one, it's rich, but it's not overpowering. It's nice and soft. You know, on the nose, I'm getting some grilled pineapple, lychee, little guava, so some exotic fruits coming in there, and that kind of makes sense because that falls into the profile of the Citra hops. And a little sweet spice, like sweet baking spice. Now the Citra hops that they're using here come from California. These are organic Citra hops, and I believe they're only one of 3 breweries in North America that are able to get their hands on this, the organic version. So, you know, these guys are really dedicated to what they're doing in terms of the organic processes. So let's give this a taste. That's really nice in the mouth. That ripe fruit comes through, but it's not cloying or it's not overly sweet. You get that ripe fruit, and then there's a nice dry, crisp finish to it. I'm gonna go back in for another sip. So the flavors in the mouth pretty much follow everything that I smelled. I'm getting a little bit of orange pith on the mouth, so the white part underneath the rind of the orange. And again, that ties into the resin notes that I mentioned before that are characteristic of hops. Really nice though. This is crisp, clean. It's not overly bright. There's some other IPAs that I've had out there that are just, scream citrus and lemon and almost make you want to pucker. Not the case here. All this makes you want to do is have another sip. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. All right, so we're going to move on to our blonde style. And for those of you watching, if anyone is having a beer, doesn't have to, of course, be Etienne Brule, but let me know. Let me know. And also let me know if you can hear me okay and see me okay. Appreciate that. Hopefully we're right side up too. Hopefully I want to be 2 for 2 on that. All right, so we're going to dive into the blonde. Vagabond Blonde is the number 2 that we're tasting right here. A little weaker, 4.6% alcohol, so this is not going to be a big alcohol bomb. Organic as well, everything they do is organic. And blonde, so what is a blonde ale? Sometimes they're called golden ales. It's a bit hard to nail down exactly what a blonde ale is. It's a bit of a catch-all term that the industry just uses. Generally speaking, they're crisp and dry. They may have a little bit of malty sweetness with some cereal or toasty notes. They're very difficult to brew properly. Any mistakes you make in trying to make this style really shine through. So, if you get one and everything is balanced, and that's a huge kudos to the brewmaster. The blondes tend to be clear and crisp and dry. I should have done that. Blondes tend to be clear and crisp and dry, with medium to low bitterness and aroma from the hops. So, this isn't going to scream. It shouldn't be as resiny as the one before. The new normal. Oh, so we have someone enjoying the new normal by Beyond the Pale. Oh, very good. Cheers. Excellent. Okay, so back to the blonde. So I said, it's a bit of a catch-all term. Perfectly. Hey, we have Clark, New Jersey on the house. Very good. Hi, folks. Thank you for joining in. So this blonde, it's more in the Belgian type of style, which means that if you ever heard the term Duvel, that's a term that you may have heard. Duvel. Belgian blonde, so they're a little on the strong side in terms of taste, not necessarily alcohol, and then they're fruity and spicy and with some floral notes. So they take 90 days to make a blonde. If you're going to make a proper blonde, it's a 90-day commitment. So as I said before, if you don't make these things right, the mistakes shine through. Let's give this a little sip. Cheers. Salute, everyone. So it's malty, it's syrupy. I got that on the nose. It's a little yeasty, a little doughy, but in a nice way, fresh baked bread kind of way. Definitely some orange, citrus. There's lemon peel in there. It's a little roasted cereal. There's some soft floral, and again, that's the style, right? We talked about these. This is what's going to be within that blonde style. You're going to expect those type of characteristics, and this rings right true to the style. Very clean, very nice and crisp on the mouthfeel, but not puckeringly crisp. Just nice, clean, bright, very dry, which is a characteristic of the style as well. Blondes are typically dry. Great finish. A little bit of bitterness on the back end and a touch of malt. fantastic. That's a great food beer as well. I mean, you could have that on its own, or you're having some roasted poultry, or geez, trying to think, what would you do with a vegetarian option with that? Probably some roasted root vegetables. That would just go wonderfully with that. So, excellent. Nicely done. A little bit of water, and we'll move on to number 4. Sorry, number 3, getting ahead of myself. Okay, so we're going to move on. Number 3, Cutter's Red. Now, this is a style. Hopefully you guys can see this. Red ales. Red ales don't get enough love in my opinion. And that's just me, that's just Paul's, that's just Somm4All's opinion. We do see a lot of IPAs throughout North America. We see a lot of ales and different things. I think the red ale is underloved and underappreciated. Sometimes people will confuse them with amber ales. And ambers are actually a little bit different. Red ales use specifically malted and roasted malts. Sorry, specifically roasted malts, and they create a unique complexity within the beer that gives it a bit of a sweeter, bit of butterscotchy, caramelized, depending on the brewer and the style. But it lends those kind of roasty, kind of sticky notes a little bit. There's hops in here, and that tends to help out with the dry finish. They originated from Europe. And, again, they're darker in color, so I'll hold this up and you can see. And there's different degrees, depending on what the brewmaster is doing and the level of roast and malt that you get on the grain. They may be darker or lighter, but they typically are very food friendly. So let's go in and give this a little bit of a smell. See, right off the bat, I'm getting that caramel, I'm getting that butterscotch, I'm getting that roasted grain. Getting some floral notes. So a little different on the palate, a little fuller. I won't want to say heavier, but a little fuller on the palate. But again, these beers have all been very dry, very crisp. They leave you wanting another sip. 5% alcohol on this one. Geez, yeah, I can't say enough good things about that. Fish and chips. Something deep fried zucchini, pretty much anything. The red ales are really food friendly. So Cutter's Red. I like that one. All right, so we'll move on to number 4. Sorry, a little bit of water to cleanse that palate. So number 4. Some of you may have seen this before, or this may be a brand new term. This is called a milk stout. They've called it 5W30. And I guess they're trying to, the color of it's kind of oily, so that's kind of their play on it. 6% alcohol, so again, not a big, huge beer. And, let's get into stouts. So, what is a stout? Well, you got to go back to England many, many years ago. And, it's a roasted barley-based type of beer. And originally the term stout was actually used to talk about the level of strength in terms of the flavor and intensity of the beer. So, a couple hundred years ago, you would say that was a stout porter rather than just calling it a stout. And then over time, the term stout kind of stands out in itself as a style. We could talk about what porter is and we could talk about styles, but again, we'd be here for hours. So the stouts, they're going to have those chocolatey, those coffee kind of notes to it. They should be a little on the creamy side. You should get some cereal in there, all that good stuff. Now, a milk stout is a little bit different because what they do, and this goes back about 100 years, is they actually add lactose sugar, so a sugar byproduct of milk, into the stout. That sugar actually doesn't ferment. So what it does is it adds a little touch of sweetness, adds a little extra creaminess in there. And in the 1900s, that was actually used for medicinal purposes. Milk stouts was created and used for invalids and people that weren't well as a medicinal nutritional supplement, believe it or not. You may have heard a slogan, Guinness is good for you. Not exactly the same. Guinness is not a milk stout, but kind of the same idea. So what's this milk stout smell like? All right, so we're getting chocolate. I'm getting, so like a dark chocolate, a dry dark chocolate, roasted cereals, mochas, a bit of a coffee note, chocolatey coffee. Almost a touch of a smokiness on there. I get the cream, so it smells a bit like fresh cream. Let's go in, let's give it a taste. That chocolate kind of comes through right off the hop, and then everything else kind of plays through. So well-balanced beer, very creamy in the mouth. There is a sense of sweetness there, but this isn't something that I wouldn't necessarily just serve this with dessert. You're not going to cloy your mouth. You're not going to get tired of that sweetness. It's just it takes a little bit of the bitterness out if you're used to having stouts or porters or rather those dark kind of creamy beers. The bitterness level here, that milk, lactose, sugar additive, just kind of tempers everything down a little bit. Very nice. Yeah. Anything roasted or stewed or anything of that nature, wow, be a great pairing. Okay, so those are the four that I'm going to talk about today. They do have other beers available. In the interest of time, I'm not going to do that. I may do another posting when I taste them on my own and do these more as a true tasting. I may do it virtually. I may just do it written. They have a Pilsner called Notre Dame. And for those of you watching, Pilsner. So Pilsner is essentially a lager. It is a lager. The name Pilsner comes from a city in the Czech Republic called Pilsen. We may have seen cans out there, Pilsner Urquell. That means the original Pilsner, which is a lager. And what they use is they use these hops called Saz, S-A-A-Z, very specific style of hop that grows there, gives a very unique flavor profile. That's Pilsner Urquell, because we see it in the stores. And that's all Urquell means, original. So, Pilsner, they have what they've called the Explorer series. They're doing a maple syrup, maple ale, so organic, local maple syrup in here. This, I think I'm going to want to have dessert with. And then they've got a session IPA, Saison. So this will be a little funky. This will be like in the wine world, think funky Pinot Noir. You get a little bit of that bready, farmyardy, barnyardy stuff. Sessions tend to be that route. I have not tasted this one yet, but as I said, I'll do a separate tasting for those and probably put it up as a video, not a live one. Alrighty, so Etienne Brule, 17th century explorer, probably walked the lands of where the brewery is now, so that's their homage to that guy. Organic, small, local business. In these times, all local businesses need you to support local if you can, drink local when you can. How do you get these products? Not available in the LCBO. The Vagabond occasionally is in, but the other ones you got to get from the brewery. So I'm going to hold this up. This is the easiest way to do it. You call them, 613-370-3000. You give them a shout. You say, hey, I was watching Somm4All. He told me your products were great. How do I get some of these? If you are in the regions of Rockland, of Limoges, of Hammond, of Embrun, of Finch, of Castleman, and I know for all you geography buffs, you're thinking, wow, that's all the major metropolises here in the eastern part of Ontario. If you're in those regions, they're going to deliver to you same day. So you give them a call, they'll deliver to you same day. If you live outside of those areas, don't despair. They're going to come see you. They do deliveries in the Ottawa area on Fridays. They also have food to go. So you can check them out online, etiennebrule.com. They have their full menu that's there. They have takeout, they have pickup. Like a lot of small businesses, folks, they need your support. Whether you're in Prince Edward County, whether you're in Hawkesbury, whether you're in Ottawa or anywhere between, small businesses, we're 40 some odd days into this lockdown, and as much as possible, they all need your support. We are all in this together. At least I am. This is my industry now. So I thank you in advance for considering buying from local business, be it those amazing premium wines, vegan wines from Carlo Estates that I talked about earlier, or be it local craft beer, local distilleries, what have you. Food deliveries, you can do from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., Tuesday to Sunday, and the beer deliveries, I believe, is daily. So give them a shout. I want to thank you all for joining in today, series number 4. Hopefully we've learned a little. Hopefully, if you're able to, you can support Etienne Brule or other small businesses. Again, I cannot reinforce this enough. We all need your help. Specifically on the wine side, if you support Carlo Estates here in the Ottawa area, you're supporting 2 businesses, both Carlo Estates, the fine folks there, and Somm4All, who is the rep for those guys. So that's going to be a wrap on this. Any questions, please drop me a line in the comments section. If you have my email, reach out. If there's things you'd like to see differently for future segments, I'm all ears. And if you know of a local business in Eastern Ontario that you think could benefit from this, again, there's no cost. This is not a formal type of arrangement by any stretch of the imagination. This is me doing virtual tastings of local products to try and help everybody out.